panic when you hear second voice. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Good morning, dear colleagues. Good afternoon to some. Let us start working. At the moment, we have 77 viewers on YouTube. Uh, I'm informed that this is increasing. Now I'm already informed it's 80, so I'm looking forward to have more. I'm welcoming you on behalf of the Republic of Tatarstan. We have started a series of webinars preparing towards Kazan Digital Week 2021 that will be taking place on the 21st or 24th of September. You've got the slides, I hope. Here is the schedule of the webinars. We are looking forward in line with the topics of the forum. You see the dates on the slide uh, related to prepare. The program of the forum includes 10 thematic dimensions. In the framework of the forum, we expect to have a large scale exhibit. Unfortunately, at the moment, we only have what is that? 12 participants for the exhibit. At the moment, well, we are in the process of negotiations. We do hope that all of this will be in demand. Before the preparation of the forum, we are having an online hackathon called Digital Superhero, a series of those. And just for your information, we are giving detailed info on the forum, participation, possible payments for respective services are available on the forum website. We are using, at the moment, we have 90 viewers on YouTube. I'm pleased to introduce our today's speakers, representatives of science and business affecting the development of respective systems. That's Jakob Bansgaard, CEO of Ertico ITS Europe, Ralph Peter Schaefer of TomTom, Vice President, Sultan Jankazi of Dr. Technical Sciences, Professor, Chair of the Road Traffic Safety of MIT University, the head of the Academy of Intellectual Transport Systems. Marcel Shatovich Gimadzenov, Director General of Kazan Telematica, Prokhorov Andrei of the Senior Lecturer of Moscow Institute of Road Traffic, and represented Deputy Director General of Symmetra Group, as well as Fyodor Seleznyov, the Dimension Director of InnoStage company. Dear participants, we are very happy to have you during this webinar. Feel free to be asking questions in the broadcast chat. We would be reading them, asking them after we have presentations by all of our speakers, not after each one of those. If we'll run out of time, we take responsibility of responding to each of those questions post-webinar in writing. Let me start the presentation on the prospects of the development of the Republic of Tatarstan on the path towards digital mobility, unified ITS environment. Well, the events of 2020 certainly have strengthened the importance of digital transformation, which is receiving great attention in the Russian Federation. The president of Russian Federation has uh, given respective requirements that they would be prepared by the end of September. And we are to have developed a strategy of the digital transformation. So the question is, how should this strategy be in line with the recommendations? The strategy should be covering key dimensions of the economy, social sphere, as well as administration. The position is, of course, quite correct, but it's difficult to be applied in the regions because Federal Law 172 is regulating respective relations between participants in the aspects of strategic planning in the Russian Federation, forecasting, etc., etc. And thus, the strategizing of the industrial dimension is a responsibility of the federal level. So, that is the first thing that would have to be addressed at the federal level. We had a similar challenge when we were developing a single platform for administrating transportation systems when federal authorities delegated development of such platforms to the regions. From my information, we are observing similar trend in the Ministry of Healthcare and the healthcare dimension overall. And unfortunately, it seems that our dimension, intellectual transportation systems, would see the same trend and we would have to adapt to this. The other question is that within the Republic of Tatarstan, we are seeing three federal projects developing that are responsible for the implementation of ITS. We have respective responsible parties: Ministry of Construction for Smart City, Safe City is the Emercom, and ITS is the responsibility of federal agency Rosavtodor. Uh, Today we are facing some challenges on delineating of its authority per respective aspects as it is declared at the federal level. Thus, we are offering an approach of developing specific strategy by dimensions, which would allow us to group together various strategies we have in the Republic of Tatarstan. That strategy would allow us to have various aspects. One of the dimensions is digital mobility. Digital mobility is transitioning from traditional systems to intellectual mobility. We are breaking it down into four components: transportation infrastructure, communication, digital developments, number three, and data and analytics, number four. Concepts of digital mobility, we are very much linking it to intellectual transportation systems. Here we can mention three roles related to ITC as a mobility, ITS as a tool for digitization of respective infrastructure, ITC as a source of data for development monitoring the level of mobility. The Russian Federation is running events at the level of the national project related to digital maturity related to specific indicators in this dimension. Digital mobility should be considered in line with indicators of effectiveness. We have our own approaches for this. We are keeping in mind the specifics of regional development, the needs for the development of the system, including the factor analysis. The subjects of the Russian Federation are a region of the Russian Federation is a set of various municipal entities, and all the indicators should be related in line with this. We have built a contour model. At the first level, there is a federal indicator. The following level is the federal components consisting of the federal methodology, and the third level, uh, sub levels used for the algorithm of the calculations. Level 4 indicators necessary for the calculation of respective federal indicators. And the fifth one are factors affecting the current and forecast indicators. Well, next question would be, what approaches are being used for the implementation of such projects as smart city, safe city, as well as safe and quality automotive roads projects? In line with the project, or ITS as a tool of digital mobility, we are to develop the system of managing those. Obviously, smart city will have an integration. Safe city project would be developing a service platform for data processing predictive models. Well, in every one of those, we are facing various platform solutions for data collection processing, which leads to divergence of various systems, which leads to different formats of data, as well as the protocols, as well as processing, which is complicating the issue. So it's clear that single platform solution would be necessary. At the moment, the Republic is running work on resolution of this system. The base stage is the data factory approach to interact with the respective data that allows us to develop a single format interaction using that data factory approach. The region is resolving this, organizing such components as corporate data storage as well as data factory is simplifying this work. Monitoring of respective data that comes together is allowing timely response to incidents. Whenever information is coming into various systems and subsystems, it's important that it's run in proper quality processing. In Tatarstan, there is a situational center platform that allows quickly create and analyze various models in line with graph calculations. Talking about digital mobility, two information IT models have been created. First model is to identify location of respective vehicles, and the second model is the model for assessing passenger transportation throughout the Republic of Kazakhstan. We are to continue developing situational center platform and looking for respective models shown on the slide, offering to use the situational center platform as a standard analytical system of the single platform for transportation management. Thank you for your attention. I have presented you the topics that we would need to be addressing to develop ITS within our region. I do hope that these problems would be responded to by our speakers and they would give a wider overview of the approaches there are in the world. Our colleagues, ITC is a materialization of IT into engineering solutions. It's clear it's important that we know the experience of our colleagues from ITS, Ertico, Europe. Mr. Bansgaard, the floor is yours. I would kindly request you to describe those uh, elements of the development of these systems.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minihano, for the kind introduction, and it's a big pleasure for me to be invited to speak today. We have a very close cooperation with Kazan and Tatarstan in Ertico, and we are working closely on the ITS developments for the future. So I would build on some of what you were mentioning, and I will make a short presentation about where we are, especially when it comes to ITS for cities. So first of all, while we have been very much hit by the pandemic in the last year, every one of us, and while we have been working from home most of the time, we have still been moving forward towards our vision for ITS and for smart mobility towards 2030. And that is when it comes to when it comes to connectivity, automation, digitalization, multimodality, electrification of the fleets, and also putting the user in the center, so making user-centric services in the mobility sector. So we have been very much working with our partners also in the last year on moving forward towards our goals for 2030. We have 4 key areas that we work on: connected, automated, clean mobility, urban mobility, and transport and logistics. And I'm going to say only a few words about our urban mobility area, because urban mobility, as we have all noticed, has become so important in the last year. We have seen a lockdown in many cities. We have seen a fear of using certain modes of transport. We have seen certain modes of transport being challenged and others being promoted. So what we will see as well is that the work with the cities for the future is extremely important because of the refocus on mobility in cities and refocusing on how to tackle the challenges for the cities in the future. When it comes to our vision for the future cities, it's very much based on the infrastructure management, the data management, the service management, and very much looking at how to make the services predictive and interactive and not reactive when it comes to the management of the traffic in the cities. So, and another aspect there is very much linked to mobility as a service or the multimodality in putting together integrated concepts using several modes of transport. And that is really to utilize the potential of all modes and therefore optimize the usage of the infrastructure in the cities. So we have created a roadmap for how we see the developments towards 2030. What are the milestones we need? What are the activities we need to launch? And we're following this together with our partners to make sure that we meet our goal for 2030. But I think the way it is moving at the moment, I would say that we are probably moving faster than expected only a couple of years ago. So I would expect that we are reaching our target for 2030 even before 2030, between 2025 and 2030. One one activity of Urchico that I would like to draw your attention to is our Urchico City Moonshot. The City Moonshot was really an opportunity for us to engage with the cities, and we have been working on interviewing around 300 cities. At the moment, we are way more than 100 cities, but the goal is for this year to reach 300 cities around the world where we will discuss the developments of ITS. And we have, for Russia so far, 3 cities have been participating, and I'm sure that Kazan will also very soon be added to this. So the Russian Federation, we have these 3 cities participating in our survey. This is the first time I present some of the outcome of our study because we are only more or less midway in our research. So we are going to present at the ITS World Congress in Hamburg in October. We are going to present to everyone the result of this. But I can give you some indications on what we see so far with the interviews we've done, that main priorities in the cities that we see now is improving the public transport sector, uh, also focusing on the environment, so the air quality of the city. Those are the 2 areas that stands out the most in the cities we've interviewed so far. And that is related to the challenges that the cities are facing with traffic congestion and pollution. So finding the solutions to this, we also see already what are the steps that cities are taking. First of all, as I'm sure that many of you have already noticed, a lot of cities have been focusing on alternative mobility solutions, and there many have turned in towards uh, bicycles, for instance. It's also what we see in Brussels, where I live, that we have they have largely increased the bicycle network in Brussels, and then further investments in the public transport, as public transport should be the backbone of the mobility of the city. When it comes to mobility as a service, where we as Urchico are very active, also together with our platform, the Mars Alliance, what we are doing what we're seeing there when it comes to the cities is that many cities have plans for implementation of mass services within the next 1 to 5 years. And I think very important as well that most of the cities actually see it as a public-private partnership led activity. And that is what we have been promoting all the time. We have said, make sure that this is an open platform where you are using the full potential of the mobility system. Don't focus only on private service or public services. And this is also now the feedback that we get from the cities in the study. Last but not least, why are we doing all this? Well, we are looking at making mobility smarter, cleaner, and more efficient. And the reason why we do this is because we want to decarbonize the transport sector. We have set a target of saving 1 million tons of CO2 by 2030. We're also looking at the safety aspects, where our target has been set to saving some 10,000 lives in Europe towards 2030. And then on the efficiency side, 1 million hours from traffic congestions and delays. So this is why we are doing it, and we always go back to that to make sure that we look at our roots. Why are we working on ITS? What are the benefits of ITS for the society, and why is it so important that we work together on these targets? So I'm very much looking forward to the Kazan Digital Week in September. I hope that I will be able to participate there in person, and I wish you all the success towards organizing this event. So thank you very much, Mr. Minihano.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mansberg, and for this wonderful presentation. It was very pithy. It was very informative, and we hope very much that you will be here physically here in our forum, on our common forum. And in our webinar, we have our foreign friend and guest. It's a vice president of the TomTom company. So, Mr. Shepard, please.
Yeah, good morning. I hope you can hear me very well. So, yeah, it's a great pleasure also to be here and speaking after my old friend Jacob from Erico. I want to focus in my presentation how we as a company in the service and navigation sector can support cities to fight congestion and utilize the digital revolution around data and connectivity of people and cars to analyze transportation systems and also manage traffic and plan better. So as Jacob already mentioned, there are a number of challenges in transport, and one is decarbonization, that we around the globe we want to reduce CO2 consumption. Electrification is coming with a broader set of electric vehicles and reduction of combustion engine in the future. There are strong targets and also market take up now. We're seeing growing automation level in the public transport and automotive sector with advanced driver assistant and all first fleets fully autonomous, which will evolve in the coming years and also give opportunities for safer and also better managed road transportation in terms of demand and road safety. And what also Jacob mentioned already, modal split is king, and with the pandemic situation, the change of the multimodality aspect has been accelerated. You see much more bikes in many European cities. The bike population, in particular after the pandemic, is massively increased, and that's a good development to get the goals done to reduce congestion in cities and give space back to people, and also make a good split between public transport, cars, bikes, and pedestrian. And what is good to know, the digital revolution around data we are in for many years is now really mature, and we can apply this in a model to help cities to achieve their goals, and that's a good development. And this I want to focus also in my presentation, what you can do with big data. So one thing we are doing for now 10 years in a row is we are monitoring congestion level around the world in over 400 cities. We can measure congestion level year by year and in a harmonized approach. And what was most interesting last year, it was the first year of big exception with the pandemic, with the lockdown period. We saw a massive reduction of congestion level all over the world, but it was more an artificial temporary situation caused by the pandemic. And however, there were quite some differences around the world. We have seen, and also here in this slide is a view on the Russian situation for cities for last year. So the congestion level we measured in 2020 with a ranking for Russian cities. But you also see the rank in the global scheme of over 400 cities that there is overall reduction of congestion also in Russia. But you can also see in Kazan has a quite low congestion level already. So the mix and the degree of car population is quite lower as in other cities, including Moscow and St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk, etc. So there's already some good stuff happening, and it is reflected in the quite low congestion level is 29%. This means if you drive over the day, your travel time is delayed by average 29%. That is how to read this congestion index compared to the free flow situation, for instance, overnight. You can have more information on the website, search for TomTom congestion index, and you can search for any detail, even on a day-to-day basis, weekly pattern, situation during COVID. So it's an interesting pool of information about congestion around the world. So Jacob already mentioned we are on a phase where the competitive nature of traffic management is more and more getting into a more collaborative mode. Public-private partnerships are growing everywhere. And that's really a good development, because if you combine the strengths and availability of data from infrastructure, but more importantly, the growth of the probe data, the car sensor data from connected users and cars is a massive opportunity to improve traffic planning and transportation management, and make it a topic around navigation systems to play an instrumental role to better plan cities, roads, and also manage the multimodality when it comes to traffic demand analysis, route choice, and so on. Massive opportunity, and I want to give you a few examples how we tackled these things. And it's all about making an instrumental change of your thinking. Instead, installing infrastructure loops in the pavement, you can utilize the massive amount of connected users with a feedback loop around navigation systems. There's a car population connected with users and cars, and only TomTom can monitor more than 20% of the car population today, which gives you precise insights on traffic demand, route choice, and also travel time and congestion level. And that's a massive contribution to understand traffic and manage and plan better. So when you look into the navigation systems and connect them with typical services from the traffic management sector, like traffic light, we're talking about optimizing traffic lights, but also understand queuing lengths. We can measure, meanwhile, volume and estimate volume just from the car population we monitor. In Russia, typically 20% of the car population, we have live data from any car, and that's the ground for precise information on travel time, speed, delays, and only also volume. And we can build many services to guide people from A to B, but also manage networks in a much better way to load balance traffic. Think about and take into account route choice and modal split and improve. So we also build with our huge pool of data a portal where we can help businesses and authorities in traffic management and planning to achieve their goals. We can give precise information on the traffic demand, typically known as OD analysis, junction analytics to trim and tune better traffic lights, and give better flow around junctions or green wave on corridors. We have tools to implement route monitoring tools and also analyze historically the travel time and speed pattern for given territories or routes. And here in my next slide, I pulled out some of the output for Kazan from yesterday. Here I pulled out a typical junction in the heart of Kazan. You see the queuing lengths. You see churn ratio between the different in and outbound stretches of a junction. So it's fantastic input for a traffic light controller. And again, this is completely free of infrastructure. This is the fundamental change and the revolution. It's fully data-driven, and this gives a massive opportunity to have full information, but also use only connected cars and probes to measure this impact. The right up side is route monitoring on a given route here in the screen. Also, there are congestion stretches for yesterday in the evening rush hour. Bottom left is the situation of traversals of cars we monitor in Kazan, and the speed color-coded in red, blue, and color codes. Blue is higher speed, and congestion is in red, even lane by lane. And we can also do it on specific routes for a longer period of time in the history. This was here in the right bottom for May 2021 for a stretch in the heart of the city. This can be utilized via APIs or in web service, and it's a fantastic input for traffic modeling, but also planning, real-time management to utilize this data. And as said, this is fully free of infrastructure. In the end, what is the goal state? And I say it again, we are in a decision. The cities have to take decision what they want to achieve, right? Modal split is key, and a good balance between cars, bikes, public transport. This remains the major challenge for cities in order to reduce the major goal, reduce CO2, but also makes the heart of the cities more livable and give space even back to citizens. That is the fundamental goal. Achievement can be done very different depending on the city strategy, but fundamentally that is the goal state to balance out the different modes of transport. And big data can help, and navigation and multimodal services can support to achieve these goals. So what I wanted to just bring you here in front is we are in the middle of a big transformation in traffic management and planning. It's around big data. It's about digitalization. It's about modal split management with different measures, with data, but also with you can use navigation system, dynamic and static tolling systems. There are a lot of things, but also implement more space for bikes and public transport to achieve this balance, which is important to make cities more livable and reduce congestions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Спасибо большое, господин Шефер, за обстоятельное сообщение о достижениях.
Thank you very much for your very informative presentation about organization of traffic infrastructure. We are inviting you to visit Kazan in September this year, and we hope to see you here offline and to talk to you personally and discuss all these issues during our forum. And And if you have a possibility to take part in the exhibition which we're planning to organize, because equipment of your company, your approaches are very, very interesting for us and here in Russia. We are learning American, Asia, and European experience, and we always compare it with the Russian experience. And we are looking for the points where we can cooperate. We are looking for experts, and we consult our experts. And our next speaker is the head of the Department of the Transportation from Moscow University, head of the Academy of the Intelligent Transportation Systems, Shankaziev Sultan. So, Sultan Vladimirovich, please, the floor is yours. Oh, dear participants, thanks a lot. So let me start my presentation. Can you see my presentation? Yeah, we can see that. So we've been talking a lot about this issues of our conference, and we are accumulating more and more experience and more information. We talk more about the platform solutions, but we know that platforms we can call them differently, but we organize platform not just to have platform, but we organize these platforms in order to use them as an instrument of implementation and realization of a lot of possibilities. And we've talked a lot about services which can also be available through platform solutions. And I would like briefly tell you about the development of different services provided through the intellectual transportation systems. And we did manage to launch some pilot projects, and we saw that the ideology which we have been discussing through these years, they can be used, they can be launched, and they can be used. And I believe that there is time now to talk about it, to talk about these results. And for us, it is top of this pyramid, as you see, it's a technical component. We understand that it's not the end of the story. We will continue changing the mental models of behavior of people, the mentality of participants of the transportation of the traffic. So changes in society, this is the, our prospect. We have to train people to behave differently. And we understand that the service approach, it's a next step in the evolution, which we have to discuss now, and we have two reasons for that. Well, first, because we see the appearance of the vehicles, new type of vehicles, which can be connected with the information transportation systems. And the second, we already have a real demand, and not just among the experts, but also common people are looking for special services from transportation. For example, car sharing, where sharing services, probably we had a little too high expectations, but we still have it. But there is still a growing demand on different services in transportation, especially mobility and mass. And now we have to develop for these services special requirements to the infrastructure. And we think that in order to make these services possible and implement them, we have to build a multi-level system of platforms. And on top of it, we have to have the analytical, we have to have a digital model. Now we call it, this is the digital model for road traffic. It is the a model of the management of mobility. And this model, digital model, helps us to use the potential of the connected vehicles and pilotless vehicles as well, and vehicles with a high degree of automatization. And we have conducted these experiments many times, and we conducted them last year and this year. And the concept of the digital model coincides with the tendencies which we know and which we monitor in the world experience. And we have said many times that platforms in Russia will based on the original level. Well, that means that the platforms will have to be compatible with the same platform in other countries with the peculiarities of the national implementation.
Заключается в том, что это не просто
The essence of developing the digital model is this being not only the data collection and possibility of aggregating the data from various uh, different platforms, smart city, safe city, or other types also. We understand we would also need to interact with the regional healthcare platform, etc., etc. Most importantly, is that this is the digital entity phenomena that allows the connectivity to other participants. And let's say if some person has some demand for obtaining that service, would make respective request, there would be everything in place for us to be offering the service. My presentation here is to identify respective areas. We group these users here on the screen. We are breaking them down into four uh, benefiters, the subject, those that own roads network. There are different subjects there. Obviously, ITS service operators, but for some reason we are here about operators as market subjects without some functionality. The third group is obviously ITS service users, and we are looking at how would that work, the requests from them, how would motivate that this would be interesting for them as well. As well as the fourth group is the logistics and transportation service providers. The breakdown of the ITS service operators. I wouldn't be delving into details what they are doing, aggregating requests for the interaction, etc., interacting with the parties that are managing this network. In that sense, operators are organizing the mobility management. Going into numbers, we've run our studies, and we see that already today it is possible to pass on this into the service. It's potentially monetizable since the moment when you want to do that. For example, in the Republic of Tatarstan, you can launch the service if you agree and start launching this beginning this year. The demand at the moment is assessed at 5%, and going forward, we expect that the growth would be about 10% per annum. Total analytics for monetization here, we relied not only on our survey data, but also on the data available from our foreign colleagues available on the internet, significant funding, and that's just forecast from where we are today. But we admit that in about half a year's time, that forecast figures might increase significantly. Well, trying to assess the trend for services in Russian Federation, unless we would be doing things, obviously it won't be developing at the same time. Without activity on our part, we risk that this will be just under the purview of the government and not developing the opportunities offered by services and the cooperation that is giving this possibility of added value mentioned by Rifkat Norgalevich, because without that, that would be more of an architectural approach. As well as for the effective development of ITS services, there are a number of steps that needs to be taken, legal aspects as well. It will be difficult to be pushing those services uh, with the support of businesses only. It's important to come back to discussing the law about ITS and prescribe the priorities for the development of ITS, uh, as well as in the infrastructure and the platform, to see the service based user thinking and promoting those services, both from state motivation as well as with business type motivation. Thank you very much for your attention. I decided to compact it this way to set the trend. Thank you. Thank you very much for quite a compact presentation. The topic is quite large, and as you have properly mentioned, uh, and colleagues before you as well, that throughout the pandemic, especially last year, ITS became something of interest to all, whether they had the experience or not. And the experience that you have will enrich us to go to advance properly. I like saying who starts last has a chance to become first, and here in Russia we were taking those preparation steps for much longer, and maybe looking at the experience of our colleagues, including in Europe, we'll be able to get on the same level as our colleagues. Thank you very much, Sultan Vladimirovich. I do hope that we'll be able to meet again during the next conference in July. The next presentation is Kazan Telematica. I'm giving the floor dedicated to the presentation well, to Nigmazanov Marcel Ilshatovich on the development of the system. You hear me, dear colleagues? Yes, quite fine. Uh, Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak at the webinar. Once again, interact with colleagues, the professionals in the industry. I would like to speak about the activities we are running in the framework of the developing the uniform platform for transportation system management, the topic of my presentation, which, as you have correctly said, started receiving significant attention at the time of pandemics. The goals that we have put into this development of this single platform are enumerated on my slide: increasing the quality of transportation services towards the economy and the population, uh, creating a uniform information space for all participants of the industry to be capable of sharing their data, as well as to be enriched in return by the analytics that can be offered by that single platform in all aspects, including ecological ones, as it is shown number 3. Yesterday, interacting and even today, talking about situational center, the data that is collected there allows us to have necessary recommendations to minimize delays, and number 4 here, in case of response times for different services, and digitalization and speeding up the transportation industry operations. In this sense, I would say that automation of transportation is uh, one of the most convenient, because there is plenty of various gadgets and telemetry collecting devices. Obviously, there are some problems, and I'm describing them here as well: legal, administrative, technical, and organizational, because the history of any kind of development, be it in transport industry as well, each participant is developing their protocols, their solutions. It started developing in Tatarstan and Krasnodar Krai and other areas. Clearly, the first thing is legal because it's important to have one single status as well as interdepartmental interaction. Then the administrative one I mentioned before, clearly technical one because the developments and solutions that were created, those were created to address something locally without looking at the big picture and the interaction. Whilst now, with us coming to the platform level, it's important for us to standardize many approaches, be it the data, obtaining the data, uh, collecting it, as well as analyzing it. Well, and going back to the legal aspect, it's important that and we have analyzed the documents in place that are regulating situation in the Russian Federation. This decision of the Minister of Transportation Russian Federation on the 25th of March 2020, as well as informational letter from dated 14th of April 21, uh, informing about standardization steps and regulations in the interaction between respective subjects. Then obviously it's important to give a proper status for the operation of such a system at the territory of subjects, as well as there is a need for a single operator. We have analyzed the way it is done around the various regions of the planet. All of that is following more or less one and the same model. A center that is developing methodology and is responsible for the architecture and connecting all processes, creating the system and getting the respective approvals, provide allocating some resources or reallocating those so as to avoid duplicating existing solutions. This slide I'm showing you stages of implementing such a single platform. First stage is, of course, collecting data because those are located in different databases or in different baskets. And without all of this being grouped together, we cannot offer the necessary analytics. It's important also to provide this at the federal backbone. There is certain experience of collecting information, be it from taxi service providers, public transportation, etc. It would then be important to identify the operator for the platform as well as provide it with the necessary legal status so that you could trust the data that is being collected because it's regulated. And of course, then the bringing this into operation. Once the platform is operational, year on year, it would be accumulating more and more data, having more and more services. It would obviously be attracting both citizens of as well as businesses to engage in the platform for sharing the data they have, and that platform will be the place where all of the data can be uploaded and analyzed together. Here, in short, our recommendations as experts about the steps how this implementation should take place. First, obviously, data collection and storage. Second stage is about taking further steps, modeling and analytics and recommendations on the data that is being collected. In the third stage, that's when we have full set of data and all process participants are engaged in the platform. That allows us the chance for planning and forecasting. And by then, the platform is to become a single window for all business processes that would have a synchronous operation, top down, everything so that nothing is chaotic and all platform participants and processes are are working in synchronous. That's the way it is now. I'm showing you when every participant is operating their own sets of data, and how it starts looking like when we move to a single platform. The Center for the Road Traffic Organization is playing here as a methodologist, issuing protocols for data collections. Thus, we are not having any doubts about the data quality, about presentation, because we have a uniform standard-based approach. It's very important that this data is serving as a foundation for overall analytics, because unless we have quality data, we cannot rely on analytics. Clearly, looking at the federal level, uh, Russian Federation is looking at the experience of regions. Of course, the pilots, the pioneers, it wants to scale this and transform this into a single federal platform, when all regional platforms will be connected into an integrated solution, and everything will be visible. That's a challenging path that would allow for wider scaling throughout the country. On our side, we would be ready to respond to all possible questions and be ready to provide recommendations. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Let us hope that in September you would share about new achievements of Russian telematics, and we do hope that you would organize the exhibit. Yes, indeed, we do plan to take part in the exhibit with our solutions by then. And it would be good if you would show us the unmanned truck. We do intend to be showing it. We have already experience of interacting with commercial services, thus we will take part in the exhibit as well. The floor is now given to Andrei Prokhorov, Deputy Director of Symmetra Group of Companies. Happy to welcome everybody. Thank you very much for the chance to present. May I hope that you see my presentation well? Yes, just fine. Then let us start. I would report in our experience and vision of ITS and the top level of ITS. I structured my presentation first on the ITS, then on the top level, how this can be evolving and should be evolving, some ideas about the platform, experience of implementation of our platform, as well as, in the conclusion, what's missing, what is appropriate for the development of this topic in Russia. Here I'm quoting a definition of ITS within the state standard document. The main idea in talking about ITS, we are talking about adaptive management. The most important thing is, what are we managing? Here, using the infrastructure and various transportation means, services, etc., we are managing mobility. It's important to keep this in mind when we are running various projects for the introduction of ITS solutions. From our point of view, the main tool for forecasting and decision-making support is intellectual transportation model. Thank you very much for previous speakers that mentioned the importance of integration of different projects that are part of the responsibility of different ministries at the federal level. This slide is showing the architecture of ITS as developed by Rosavtodor. agency, and the ITS, the Uniform Platform for Transportation System Management, is the top level. And when interacting with colleagues, we hear that many players are trying to enlarge their computer-aided management solutions to the Uniform Platform of Transportation Management, which is not fully correct from our point of view, because that level is integrating all possible transportation means. Let me remind you that there is obviously the following ITS architecture shown and described in the standard. It is not identified by modules, which I believe was mainly an advantage, because this allows us to see very specific functions of the platform that is responsible for the coordination of all complex solutions, data processing, and scenario analysis.
So it helps us avoid doubling, and so it defines the level of responsibility. And now, as we see what's going on, we do understand where we have to go. We understand our goals. So we put this puzzle together. We try to build up integrated system, and we getting closer to what we want, but not exactly so. Why? Because we don't have the methods of solving the step-by-step problems, and we have to improve it continuously. But I have to say that the fact that we do have this understanding and the method of how to develop the intellectual transportation system, it pushes us to go forward. Here on this slide, we try to rethink the modules and the upper level or top level, which we have now, and how we do it. We think that some of these blocks and modules can be qualified as subsystems because they solve pretty narrow problems. So they have to go down on the level. And according to the logic as we see it, and we have to highlight these main modules which you see on the slide. These modules which I just highlighted on the slide, and the main idea is, well, I don't have time unfortunately to speak in detail about it, that you have to move from this core which from which the arrow goes down to the depending on the size of the transportation issue which you're trying to solve. So couple of words about our development. We started doing it in 2016. We already have quite successful implementations, and three main things which we have developed. There's a mathematical model. The second one is the unified database of the transportation flow from a lot of cities in Russia. And on this slide, you see the main modules which we consider when we were developing the algorithm. Again, I will not dwell on it. So this is the integration scheme of our model. So here we have three steps, as you can see, how to build the services of the predictive model. And there are three levels of this model: the transportation model, of the usage balance, as you said, or usage equilibrium. We have adaptive dynamic online model, and this model can send information to further processing. And the model of the system equilibrium which allows to redistribute traffic in the in the best way. So these are the cities in which we implemented these ideas. These cities were very active in participating in this experiments. And again, certain things we believe are very important. It's we have to train people, we have to train specialists. And again, thank you very much for inviting me here and for opportunity to be here on this event. And I think it is very important, this issue is to share experience, to come together and talk about it. Then we have to involve all participants, all interested parties in developing new types of architecture for the intellectual transportation system. And we have shown this slide many times of the data exchange between different levels or among different levels. And we believe that it will be very beneficial when we exchange database among all cities involved. So in order to save time, let me just round up my presentation. And again, thank you very much for being here. And you can ask me any questions. Well, Andre, thank you. So we have one more presentation, the transportation system of the regions. And so our presenter is Fyodor. Fyodor, please. And this is the Inner Stage company. Yes, well, my presentation will be about Platform of the Information Center, and I would like to use the fact that I am the last one. Well, my colleagues talked a lot about what platforms we're creating, and we build this platform from bottom-top principle. And this way, this approach is very good approach. And in Tatarstan, you have your own ideas about it, and you consult a lot of people who practically work in this area, and people who are involved in the organization of this work in different regions. And if you go up to the ministers, federal ministers responsible for the transportation, you see that they do not use full potential of the platforms which we create. They sometimes they have to use like specific solutions, and they try to deal with the very narrow tasks. And people on the level of regions, they quite rarely are involved in this big integrated work. And you have to work on the regional level and explain to people the importance of the approaches which we propose. You cannot work conservatively and traditionally. You have to have new view on what's going on. So that is why we created this platform, which we call Situation Center. And we develop analytical models, and we develop them quite rapidly, and they're very transparent. They're very easy to understand for people who are interested. And usually we have a number of specialists and experts working on this under the umbrella, for example, of the Cabinet of Ministers, when you have to attract at the same time in one place a lot of different experts. And our colleagues already said that we have to solve a lot of other issues, including, for example, ecology issues and healthcare system. And so that is why we started using ideology, which is used in science. It's graphs and models and the principle of the minimization of programming, so that people who practically use it can work only with the with the working group, which knows the situation in detail. So the end user doesn't have to have deep knowledge in programming or coding. And we did create such program. It was tried and tested in some real life situations. We organized special hackathon during which students managed to learn how to work on this platform, and they did manage to solve some important transport traffic optimization tasks. The platform showed that itself is a very efficient instrument. It doesn't need to have deep knowledge in programming, in a lot of technicalities. No, you can use this platform even for people who have just very basic knowledge about these issues. And it provides efficient and quick solutions for particular um, challenges. And so this is an example which we train people on these webinars about the intellectual transportation system. And I think that on this example, you will understand what that means. Like, for example, there is a task for the ITS, for example, where you have to install the video cameras. And we solve this problem. So we analyze data which we get from the traffic control system. You have to see the intensity, the concentration of the traffic accidents. And we see these blue dots with information about this traffic accident. Then you see the place, the site where it happened. Then this system start analyzing if there is video cameras next to it place. And this platform analyzes the sources of this video information and helps to solve this problem. And after we analyze this model makes decision if in the radius of 200 meters there is a video camera. So you look at the map and you understand that a video camera covers a certain area. But on the screenshot, you can see that there is a place with traffic accidents, but we don't have cameras next to it. And the system prompts you that it might be a good idea to install video camera here in order to see what happens in this place and to analyze what happens and why in terms of traffic accidents. So we extract knowledge through this platform, and the specialists use the functionality of this platform, and that's different approach which we see which exists now, where we have special standards and it is very strictly organized. In this case, we have a flexibility and a special mission to improve the situation. So methods of solving of the problem is continuously changed and improved. So it's flexible. And probably the main difference from the platforms which we already have, and you see the internal structure of the platform. So the structure of this platform in this century has two modules which add up to each other and allows us to solve all problems in the situational modeling. First is the module which can calculate, which can build models, and it is used not just to create these graph models, but also it extracts data, processes data. It is integrated with other systems. It is all implemented through flexible, simple instruments and allows people who understand it and learn how to do it, they can solve the whole range of different transportation challenges. Second one is this data storage. This storage has the data which is used for decision making, and you always have this database which you can use, and you can connect it to any source of information. And so the analysts are free from this routine work. So when we use these modules, it allows us to solve a lot of analytical tasks, and it allows us to get integrated into other systems. And it takes less than 1 week to integrate as our system into any other system already existing. And we develop now just very different flexible models. And as it comes to models, about 30% of the time we develop the model, and the rest of the time we just spend on looking for information to test this model. So most of the models are implemented in a very short period of time, again, in 1 or 2 weeks. And COVID model, for example, we just spent just 1 weekend when we had this emergency situation. This platform is used not only in the ITS system, but we can use it in a different kind of modeling in such area as in Tatarstan. We have it here, like, for example, there's an example of capital investment. We work with the financial institutions, which helps to distribute financial means and financial resources on the level of republic. For example, when we work with children care facilities, and we work not only with the cash flows, with the budget money, or how to, for example, support the existing infrastructure. We use it in the demographical models. We use it in construction, different kind of infrastructure, not only road infrastructure. And when we analyze it, this system proposes alternative and more efficient ways of distributing the budget money. It helps us to increase the efficiency of different kind of solutions, and increases the efficiency of decisions which we have to make. And this platform is very, very flexible, and it's universal. Next, I want to say that I want to stress again that how important it is to integrate and get together different databases. When, especially in the regions when you have well-developed transportation system, then you have some social issues, and we have the system of so-called indicative management, and the government and everything which works with the government is covered with this, included the system of the special indicators which show the efficiency of the government, how the social and economic situation is developing. It is all this data connected in the platform, which you can see in the slide. So this is the system of indicators. We call it 20, 50, 33. So 20 indicators for the government, local government. And so this is the unified system of indicators which are interconnected, and shows how this region of Russian Federation works. And I believe that my colleagues understand that you can solve some transportation problems, but at the same time you can ignore ecology accidentally, and the solution will be very inefficient. But this model shows us what will happen if we see, for example, if we see the CO2 or increased carbonization. So what we can do to decrease the traffic intensity, to decrease the concentration of traffic, and decrease the level of carbonization. So in the long run, you see that the indicators of the efficiency, so we analyze more than 6,000 indicators, and we can analyze some specific projects, and we also monitor on about 1,700 indicators, and you can use them to analyze situation, again, in order to make efficient managerial decisions. And of course, Federal Center uses this data to analyze these indicators, to set the goals and priorities. And we also use all these databases, and all this information helps us to have profound analysis of situation in the Republic, and helps us to solve also the traditional issues, like, for example, prognosing and forecasting. So what will happen if we, for example, increase the communal waste, how to utilize and the garbage, and how to processes, and how to help low-income people. Again, a lot of different issues what we have to change in order to get the better results. And this is a bottom to top approach. It allows us to add up and modify the platforms which we develop in different areas. And what we see that growing demand in a reliable database, to help government to increase its efficiency, because we all understand that our republic is one of the leaders in Russia. We have very good indicators. We've done a lot in order to be the leading region in Russia. And these high indications, we have very ambitious government here, and we would like to make life of our people better, and we try to be more and more efficient, and to, of course, coordinate our work with the different trends and developments. And well, finally, let me just thank all of you for being here, for participating. And our company works and organizes the hackathon superhero. I invite all of you to take part in these events, and it will be interesting. And if you are interested in startups and innovative solutions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Your presentation served as one of the high notes of this presentation about the integration of ITS in the public administration managing. I'm quite confident that there would be good result. We have some time left. I will be giving questions to speakers. I would request you to respond shortly. But we would provide full responses to all others in this YouTube broadcast chat, as well as on the website. One way or the other, all questions, even the ones that would receive answers, short ones now, would get responses publicly in YouTube chat, etc., as well as on the website. I have one of the questions that we have heard in the chat about BKD, large ring road in Tatarstan, automate digital twin, and obviously fixing the etc. Everything is getting this. Next question is from Effort Green. How strongly did the mobility development in Europe have changed due to pandemic? Jakob, could you please respond on the changes on the mobility plans in Europe?
Yes, thank you for that question. One of the things that changed from our side was when I presented the Ertico City Moonshot, and when we started the work of the Ertico City Moonshot, we didn't know about COVID and the pandemic coming. So what we did was we added this to our survey, and we asked the cities what are the implementations or the changes that they have made after the COVID-19 hit. And it's very much, as I also mentioned in my presentation, what we have seen is very much the focus of the cities to look at what kind of new normal are the cities developing for the opening up of our society again, and looking at what kind of mobility system do we want. And now this is a unique opportunity that we've been given, where we can start from scratch, so to say, and look at what are the micromobility systems that can help us, what are the integration of modes that can help us, and how can we strengthen the public transport sector. So for us, I did mention in my presentation, for us as Ertico, I think we are speeding up. There's more focus on mobility today than there were 2 years ago in finding solutions to some of the huge challenges we have when it comes to congestion and air quality. And we are very much in the front row when it comes to finding the solutions for this using new technologies. So I see a huge opportunity for all of us working in ITS to be part of the solution for the mobility of tomorrow.
Maybe I can
Thank you,
add a
Jakob.
few words from the TomTom perspective, what we have seen, in particular during the pandemic. So despite the
Peter, I will ask you a question now. It's coming, and you'll use that opportunity to shoot this as well.
Okay, good. Thanks.
The question to Schaffer is coming from Alexei Vlasov. Are there examples of using TomTom data for traffic light management? Could you please combine your two elements in one response? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So first to add to Jakob's statement.
Ну, сначала Олове роды комментарий Якоба.
The pandemic, despite it was very negative impact on the health situation for people.
Пандемия, естественно, очень негативно отразилась на вопрос состояния здоровья.
For traffic, it was an interesting test environment.
А в случае дорожного движения это своего рода тест вдруг неожиданный.
Impact on low congestion because many cars disappeared during lockdowns and
большое количество автомобилей с разных
cities without congestion with low emissions.
Сегментов дорожной сети исчезли.
And
соответственно, пробки уменьшились.
Europe changed towards the bike, so more bike lanes were exposed in many cities, including my hometown Berlin. So there was a massive growth, in particular for the bike transportation. So it was a call for change, which is now, in my view, sustainable and will lead to more focus on multimodality post the pandemic. So very interesting. Answering the question on the junction analytics and traffic light use case, yes, we're doing this project to work with infrastructure companies already for a couple of years. One specific project we started 2.5 years ago in Tokyo, where we first compared infrastructure, which is massively available there. You have even at junctions a cascade of 5 local measurement stations. We could compare first our data against the loops and infrared detectors, and it was a wonderful match. And our partner Sumitomo Electric, an infrastructure provider in Japan, utilized our data and trimmed the green time with a 20% improvement on the flow on a number of junctions. I can even share my screen and give a slide on the comparison. Give me a moment. When you see now my slide, what's not coming? Oh, sorry. No, it's coming. Do you see my screen now? This is an example from a proof of concept 2.5 years ago in Tokyo, where we start to compare infrastructure and TomTom probe data. And there's a fantastic match that gives confidence. You can utilize traffic light detection and delays and tuning without infrastructure. So in this diagram with a green background, that's the TomTom data, and in the bottom with a white background, there's the cascade of loop data on junctions. In this case, 3 different junctions, and it was a perfect match between infrastructure data and probe data we measure in the city of Tokyo. And then finally, it was utilized by Sumitomo Electric in the day-to-day traffic light optimization against our data. So it's a great example here. This is really working and this is reality. Thank you.
Так, спасибо большое, Петр. Так, вопрос от
Thank you.
Тимирлана Шерюжева.
A question from Timirlan Sheryuzhev to Mr. Zhankaziev, whether he can share his presentation. Plus, Edward Lansearch is asking, hello colleagues, where can we download your presentations? Let us address the speakers. Should the speakers allow us to publish their presentations, they would eventually be accessible at Kazan Digital Week website forum. Mr. Minikhanov, you have my presentation. Feel free to use it as a necessary response of Sultan Zhankaziev. In case of all others, should we receive permission from the presentation, Jakob, Ralph Peter, Fyodor, others, if we would get approval, we would publish it on the website. Okay, next question. What's the difference in approaches? I understand between foreign and Russian domestic approaches to ITS. Sultan Vladimirovich, the question to you. I think it's not appropriate to be speaking about the leaders and those who are the underdogs trying to catch up. I would say that whenever the project is being developed, it is very unique to a specific city. Thus, you cannot have one size fit all. There are some cities in Russia and around the world who found this appropriate, and thus they invite competent specialists and they are doing it. Talking about, I don't know, technological leadership, I can't say that Russia is lagging behind either. I don't have that feeling. Once again, I would rely on the statement of Mr. Minikhanov saying that maybe walking after those who go first allows you to kind of save on the errors. In this sense, we are doing significant amount of work also here at Kazan Digital to look for the various approaches to unification, standardization to those approaches. And then continuation, next question, Yulia Kratkova, whether there is understanding of ratings by regions in the development of ITS. And then the question whether there are successful examples of implementing ITS in various cities and in Europe. You responded to one part of it. Could you please extend? I clearly wouldn't try to rate the success of ITS development in various cities of the Russian Federation. It's just that work is being done at different speeds. I can clearly state that there are leaders. Republic of Tatarstan and the city of Kazan is clearly among the leaders. It's difficult not to give you an example of Moscow and a number of other cities. Not worth even naming them. Majority, everyone knows this. I guess the only thing that concerns me, some other cities where such projects should be available and should be coming up are not yet on the screen, but maybe that's a work for us for the next horizon. A question to Andrei Vladimirovich from to Andrei Prokhorov from Alexey Vlasov. You are looking at the scenario-based traffic management. Why are you giving up on the real-time situation management? I didn't say this. There are different approaches, both pre-calculated scenarios as well as real-time data. Both approaches are being used.
Там еще что-то про модели вроде были вопросы.
I feel we've seen something in the chat about models, no? Yes. What mathematical model is in the core of the ITS? Look, models is a different topic for discussion. There are different mathematical models. I have shown them on the webs on my slide. Talking about the software, there is integration with PTV, Smart Sim, as well as for the dynamic modeling, which we have developed ourselves. And there you have a breakdown of a branching of models. I would be ready to sit down and give a separate seminar and clarification for things. How does your platform ETM3 works if you would remove ETV much? As I have already said, we have integration with PTV and with Smart Sim, but that's not the only solutions because we also have our own algorithms. But it's important to admit that PTV is great in many things, just like Math Sim is also. Thus, it's reasonable to use them. If for some reason the client is not ready or willing to use it, there are different algorithms that allow you resolving the situation first for the dynamic modeling. Question to Piotr Kadziewic. Whether the elements of the infrastructure with linear addresses are linked to graphs, and whether it's calculated in the buffer. If Katargalich, may I respond? I have seen a number of other questions about models. I would like to demonstrate the platform so that it becomes more clear. First, it's important to understand that the platform is a tool. Inside it, there is obviously a model, or let's call it a project. So the question is whether the model is a forecast based or not. Let's maybe consider it as a project. Maybe it would give better understanding. That project might be complex or might be a simple one. And the task which I have demonstrated is a rather simple model of the project. You get the input data, then they're processing. There's a script at every Python-based script on every node. It can be typical. You can change it within the platform. And over there, you have automation showing how the data is being uploaded. You are using that tool to resolve your task and you are identifying the outcome. And you can look at on the map. This model is a unit work of the platform. This obviously mechanism has been used to develop many models. Here I demonstrated the model of Kepler investment. It's assigned. You can look at the graph. You can tag. You can add additional ones and visually demonstrate to the level of complexity necessary for respective client, be it Ministry of Construction, etc., whoever is doing ATS. There are plenty of those models. For example, a model for COVID, I can show you a list over 30 whatever pages. Those are developed for specific situations. If the model is addressing the task it's created for, it can be kept until you face the similar situation next time, or use it permanently, continue evolving it, improving it. There are different approaches, obviously. Since the platform was created and it's what second year of being used, creation of corporate storages, Yakuts in Russian acronym time systems when they trusted data sources. The platform was obviously created even before we started receiving all this data flow, and it responded to the question uh, from where we can get the data, what kind of analytical task would be addressed. and whether you use a simple connection that can be uploaded data sets into the node, or you can run connect the data through GTL process, or use as a separate access, as a separate module that would allow you to demonstrate the data type code to obtain it from a specific data storage. You wouldn't be even thinking about the format in which it's being stored. You just connect it in analytics format for the, say, population data per district. You're ready to demonstrate this. Should you come to Kazan, we will be very happy to show it at the stand. Obviously, should there be any kind of webinars, we'll be ready to take part there. Should there be any demand for this, we can organize a separate dedicated Zoom webinar, give a chance to all possible users to apply it. There's no purpose for us as developers to say that only us can use it. No, on the reverse, the logic of the platform is that we are bringing in the widest possible circle of experts dealing with this task. And should the experts criticize the model, that structure is being adapted based on the feedback and comments of clients and experts. Quite often, the very same task is being addressed differently by academicians. We, the IT people, are not deciding here. The client decides what method should be used for the task they need. For example, for banking sector, we were addressing client clusterization tasks. For the academia, that would be possibly the task of looking for oil, similar solutions. So I do hope that I responded to your question.
Thank you. And the second question is, have you ever come across the problem of the GSM coverage, LANAS and everything? That's a question to you. GSM, well, it's not our field, so our models, we use data sets. I don't know, the question is addressed to you for some reason. I think I can comment on this. I think it's in our area, yes. We work all over the country, and we do come across of the GSM cover it, and the high precision navigation sometimes hicks up, and we do have this problem. We understand it, and we solve it, try to solve it in every problem, and we have methods of solving these issues of inadequate GSM coverage. The next question is it safe to collect all data in one center with a high concentration? Is it safe? And Mike Smark is asking why you didn't show the working outputs. Well, we will give you the link, internet link. So this is about outputs question. Okay, very quickly. As for the safety of security of keeping all data in one place and high concentration, there are a lot of examples. Well, banking security system, cybersecurity, and so it is inevitable. You just have to follow the protocols of information protection. And we can probably organize a webinar or seminar in which we will show our technologies of how to keep big databases safely. We showed it to our colleagues from Turkey, and we had very positive feedback. As for the data protection, let me just add up. Yes, it is very important, and we protect this data on the government level. So this is the class 2 safety protection. So it's pretty high. And in this sense, we do provide necessary level of data protection. So just don't worry about this. We keep it in mind all the time. Well, we do have a number of questions, and probably some of them will have to leave unanswered, and we will answer them in chat. Unfortunately, we already outside of our time budget. I was following the number of participants, about 170 people, and so now we have about 140 people. So it's not a big result, but still we have a lot of interested people, really interested, asking a lot of questions. We have been listened by really interested people, by the specialists, and I do believe that with this, a lot of these people come on our conference in September. And let me thank our speakers for their wonderful presentations, very profound presentations, and let's hope for the best that we'll be able to meet again on in September. So we'll collect a lot of people, experts in these fields, and have good exhibition. We'll see the practical ways how to apply our theoretical knowledge. We have time before September. So again, thank you very much. And I hope very much to see you in Kazan Digital Week, Digital Week 2021. Kazan is looking forward to meeting you. You'll always be welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.